It's been nearly 10 years since Jordan Mechner created the original Prince of Persia.
It was a game that revolutionized the industry by setting new standards in terms of quality of animation, integration of storyline and character, and devious traps and puzzles.
We wanted to keep with the elements that make Prince of Persia great and take it into a 3D world. The process really starts with a vision. For us, it was easy because it came from the legacy of Prince of Persia.
With Prince of Persia, I wanted to set up a kind of a classic Arabian Nights story where you'd have a princess in jeopardy and you'd play the underdog hero.
Jordan really is the person who keeps us honest. He's the father of the Prince of Persia series, sort of the programmer, sound designer, and lead artist when it was really a one-man show.
Well, the problem I had, of course, was that I couldn't draw very well, and when I did my best to animate a character, it always looked like a stick figure. So I started with the idea that I would film the animation with a live actor. My brother was willing to work for free. All right, cut. It was a major point in his favor, and used that as a guide. Start moving, Dave. What I ended up doing, actually, was taking the frames of animation that I'd filmed and tracing each frame and scanning that into the computer. And I found that by taking a sequence of frames and playing it back on the computer just as it had been filmed, it was better than anything I could have drawn myself. Stop! Andrew Pedersen came to me and said, listen, I don't know how you're going to react to this, but what do you think of Prince of Persia 3D?
What do we have for that landing?
We just have a safe landing at this point. We still have to do the painful landing.
I started off needing to build a team with 3D expertise. I tried to find people who really had a love for the Prince of Persia series, because I think that if you're passionate about playing games and you loved Prince of Persia, you're going to definitely work hard to do justice to the Prince of Persia legacy.
Once the team was in place, we were ready to begin development. There are two distinct phases, design and production. The design phase starts with establishing the story and the levels.
Our job is to deal with all of the details of the actual gameplay and level design, of course.
I think that it's going to be a combination of the new and the familiar, that's going to be a real enticing quality.
This chart represents the entire Prince of Persia 3D game in terms of level progression. It lists all the 15 levels in the game. It breaks out each of the 7 environments that you're going to be moving through.
We could never really finalize exactly which levels were going to be in the game until we finalized what the story was about, because the story was the thread that connected all the levels.
The storyline is very rich in the tradition of the Arabian Nights.
It's the same world, the same characters who have moved on and are having another adventure.
Jordan co-authored the story for Prince of Persia 3D with Todd Kerpelman and Tom Rettig. It's very compelling, it's easily digestible, and really pulls the player through the levels. The environments themselves are visually very interesting, very ornate palaces and very dark and evil castles, mythical dirigibles that are sort of giant airships.
Our art director came up with the idea of actually having things hang below, kind of having it look like a giant jellyfish, was something that really hadn't been done, and the more I thought about it, the more I thought that would be very cool.
It's not just the levels. The traps also play a crucial role in Prince of Persia 3D. They are the cornerstone of the game. We're envisioning that about 30% of the traps will be classic Prince of Persia traps. So you have your spike traps, your slicer blades, your darts, but we want to have some new ones that people haven't necessarily seen before. We're going to have a catapult, which if you step on it, it will fling the prince off on possibly a bed of spikes. Angled blades, in which the first blade cuts off your shins and falls and slices you in progressive pieces. Once the design is locked down, we begin the production process, starting with the visuals.
For each of the different levels, I went through and I researched
collected all of the different books and compiled them into different reference materials so I can give out to the different artists.
He has researched all of the information on 9th century Persia, has tried to draw all those elements out from sort of the ancient aspect of things, but sort of put a contemporary spin on it.
And it all starts with sketching things out right here at the drawing board. Usually kind of just get an idea in my head based off things that I've read or I look at. I never like trace or copy. It's more like I get ideas from the things I look at and just use those to influence what I'm drawing. The prints was a really long process because we did a lot of testing to make sure that we were going down the path that the people wanted to play.
We went to great lengths when we were designing the prints for the 3D version of the game. So the prince is a little bit more warrior-like than he was in some of the previous products. We also have tried to make him a sort of an agile and cunning hero, a thinking man's hero. He's not the kind of guy that is just always going to pull out his sword and want to engage in combat. He might ponder things for a second and then decide, you know, it's probably better if I use stealth or some sort of way of avoiding the conflict than rushing into combat. I mean, that's really the idea behind the game and behind the character.
Besides the main hero, there are 25 other characters in the game, some beautiful and some freakish, including the arch nemesis Ragnar, half man, half tiger.
Once Chris completes the design of a character, an orthographic drawing is made, which is basically the blueprint of the character design, and that's handed on to Paul Davies to create the 3D model. He builds both high polygon count and low polygon count models of every single one of the 25 characters that are going to be in the product.
To make a character talk, it's not difficult at all. To make a character act and you know, convey the emotions that are necessary to carry the dialogue, that's actually very difficult. There's a lot more that you have to kind of take into consideration when you're dealing with geometry. With a drawing, basically, what you draw is what you get. With a model, it's very important that you know, the same kind of scrutiny go into all of the facial expressions and all of the phonemes. So one of the things that we have done here is try and focus on those traditional concepts, and a lot of our animators have a traditional background.
Once the models are complete, they're handed off to the lead animator.
This guy was modeled in 3D Studio Max and brought into this program. It's called Motivate by the Motion Factory. Relatively new program. We're pretty much breaking it in. Here's the infamous ledge pull-up, the classic move from the original Prince of Persia. We tried to, with all of the signature moves of the Prince, we tried to keep them just like the originals, but of course adding that third dimension.
We've gone through and have done a motion study where we're trying to understand human movement.
On this project, we chose not to go with motion capture. We are going to just study the video, take what was important, and then just animate it from scratch. And I think we've proven it works.
Prince of Persia was built upon fluid animation and seeing that character come to life on the screen. We're using a combination of old techniques and new tools, but it is the quality of the people who are doing the animation that really make this such a beautiful game and probably the most compelling animation that you're ever going to see in a 3D product. The sword fighting component has really been emphasized in terms of the skill and precision involved in sword fighting combat.
That's great.
We did a tremendous amount of research into how these weapons are used and hired actually a weapons consultant who was also the choreographer for combat study.
A lot of the other games, you strike and strike and strike until someone dies. Here there has to be a lot more strategy because the weapons have real-time capabilities and real-time distance problems. Some of them will cause more damage if you strike with them. So you do have to know something about what the weapon is realistically capable of doing and take full advantage of that.
No, we didn't put a lot of attention into casting the first time around. just put my brother in a pair of baggy pants and figured he could do whatever was required. But these guys obviously bring years of training, and I think they even practiced before they came here today.
We've gone through and we've itemized every single motion that the prince is going to go through in the game. Now we're on to everybody's favorite, take damage from strike.
Once the animations are complete, they're given to the 3D programming team and the game comes to life.
We're using NetImmerse to get us all kinds of different visual technologies for rendering, for handling things like morphing of characters around. We're doing a lot of skeletal animation. And of course, you know, full cameras, being able to move you anywhere in the world.
Listen, my friend. The gods that pace the highways are rather hard of hearing.
The emphasis is really on adventure and less on action. The game is going to be weighed probably 75% on adventure or the exploration of vast 3D environments that are going to be very diverse and very rich. The action component, which is sort of the fast action combat, is about 25% of the game, and it's going to be something that's very visceral and very exciting. Fans of the original Prince of Persia series are going to go crazy over this product.